I'm Tom Landon. On today's program, we look at one school system in our region that has a history of doing what it takes to foster a love of the arts in children. Hello and welcome to another edition and another season of What It Takes on Blue Ridge PBS. Tonight I'm pleased to welcome two fellow lovers of the arts to our studio for a conversation on the learning that goes on outside of the subjects tested by the Virginia SOLs. Jeff Midkiff is a renowned mandolin player, clarinetist, and composer. He's also the strings teacher at Patrick Henry High School in Roanoke. His student orchestras have played in storied venues like Carnegie Hall in New York. He's also a composer whose mandolin concerto from the Blue Ridge has been showcased along with his mandolin playing with the famed Boston Symphony Orchestra. Whitney Johnson is the Supervisor of Fine Arts for RCPS. She also joins us to talk about how an urban school division like Roanoke City has made tremendous efforts to ensure that all children have a chance to benefit from learning about and participating in the arts. And welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
This is a subject near and dear to my heart. As Jeff, you know, my son was in your classes from 5th grade on, so very happy to have you here today. Whitney, I'm super excited to hear more about what's going on in the city, but before we do that, just tell me, how did you get where you are, and what do you like about being the Supervisor of Fine Arts here in Roanoke?
Thank you, Tom, for having us today. I am Whitney Johnson, and I am the Supervisor of Fine Arts, and I am so excited to be in this position. I'm not new to Roanoke City. I was the principal of James Madison Middle School for about 10 years, and in doing that, still had my hand in the arts. I was still very involved in all the programming, and then when that position became available, applied and was just so fortunate to be able to work in this position. We are so lucky in Roanoke to have this rich, deep development of fine arts, and I am just so honored that I get to help and assist and lead the arts in our division.
Well, and I know Madison, which is right up the street from us here at Blue Ridge PBS, you could probably throw a rock and at least reach the property of the school, has a long history of putting on fantastic musicals in middle school and doing all kinds of things. So that's great. And Jeff, you and I have known each other a while, but since our viewers don't, how'd you get to where you are?
I've been in Roanoke City Public Schools now for, I think, working on 17 years. I grew up in Roanoke. I was in the county. I went to Oak Grove Elementary School, Hidden Valley Middle School the first year it opened, and Cave Spring High School, and then I stuck around and went to Virginia Tech for my bachelor's. And then I went away for a long time, and but in 2007, I moved back. Well, I was in Chicago before about a dozen years, and then I moved back in 2007 and took the position here in Roanoke City teaching orchestra. It's wonderful.
And we'll talk more about your career, which is, I think, interesting from an artist perspective. But Whitney, Roanoke City and Roanoke County obviously has great programs. So do all the other divisions in our viewing area. But Roanoke City is a little different than many of the school divisions in our area because of the diversity of the student body and just the variety of places where the kids who come to you come from. Sure. What makes it a little different to work in Roanoke City than some of the surrounding areas?
Well, we have so many programs available to our students beginning in elementary school, and it's something that I'm so proud of and so excited that we have this opportunity. All of our elementary students, no matter what school they go to, have accessible programming to band and strings. It's split right down the middle, starting in 4th and 5th grade. So when they go to middle school, they've already had that foundation, and it really then helps build those feeder programs into the middle school, which then of course leads into our 2 high schools. And I think that's one of the reasons we have such a strong band and orchestra program, because we start at such a young age.
Well, and you also have kind of continuity of staff. I know that, Jeff, you have been known, I don't know what the staffing situation is now, but I know that there was a time, and you may still be doing this, where you're actually working with those elementary school kids. Is that still going on?
Absolutely. I teach at Granite Court Elementary School. I teach 4th and 5th grade there, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's wonderful to start those students beginning, showing them how to hold the instrument, and then then they go to middle school and grow and play, and then come back to me at Patrick Henry. For example, when I was teaching at Fairview Elementary School, I had a young boy who started in the 4th grade, and then fast forward a few years later, he was my concert master performing at the Millennium Stage at the Kennedy Center in 2017 at the Patrick Henry Chamber Orchestra.
So nice to see.
Yeah,
Most teachers don't get that, right? Most teachers don't know their kids. I was a high school teacher for a long time, and you meet them when they show up on that first day, but you already have a sense of who they are.
And Sasha as well. I remember starting Sasha at Wasena, and then Chicago Orchestral Hall, Sasha playing bass, and it's very rewarding to be able to do that and see that growth in the students.
And just as an explanation, Sasha, my child who took strings with Jeff, played at the Music Center, the Jefferson Center Music Lab, and then also went to JMU on a music scholarship, and now is a professional working musician. I think a lot of that goes to you. When kids are in elementary school and they're being exposed to not just music, we want to make clear, you're the art supervisor, so you're not just the music supervisor. How do you make the decisions when it comes time to allocate those resources? We all are based on working with a budget, but how do you decide as an organization that we're going to make not just a strings teacher available to these kids, or the ability to do ceramics or whatever, but we're going to give them the resources. So if I can't afford a violin or I can't afford a bassoon, we may make that an option for them.
Well, we are so lucky that we have a superintendent and a school board that are absolutely available for those conversations and to make sure that art is accessible to all students. And we also have been so lucky to be, about 11 years ago, the Save the Music grant was issued to Roanoke City Public Schools.
That was from VH1, I believe,
That was from VH1, and which put instruments in the hands of all elementary students. But we do have programming. Fine arts is expensive. It is an expensive class to take, but we have a board and a superintendent that put it at the forefront and have those conversations, and we plan a year in advance, looking at our instrument inventory and our art supplies and what schools need kilns, and to make those decisions and to budget accordingly. But our fine arts classrooms are very well equipped, and we're proud of it.
And Jeff, I know a big part of the job of any band director or orchestra, conductor or teacher is just keeping all of those instruments functioning, right?
That's
I mean,
true.
they're complicated machines. I know you do a lot of that yourself, but how does that work to make sure that when a kid shows up to play the cello, the bridge is in the right place and everything's working?
You do have to know what you're doing, and it's not easy. Sometimes I feel that instead of teaching for a living, I tune for a living. All those strings, and it's important, and it's a big part of the job.
This question can go to both of you. Whitney, I'll ask you first, but why are the arts important? This is a big question, but they're not something that the schools get really ranked on in terms of the Department of Education or the federal Department of Education. Why is it important that kids experience and understand all of the fine arts?
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
Right? I saw us both sit up at this
Yeah.
question. It is the thing for so many students. It is the thing.
Yeah,
I'm going to steal a statement from the superintendent, our superintendent, Dr. Verlita White, though. She refers to something called the AAA approach, and I just love it. And it is making an equal level of importance to academics, athletics, and arts. And I think that's such a cool way to put it, that yes, we have to have so much focus on academics, and yes, athletics. That is the thing for many kids, but for arts, it is the thing for so many. And it is the feather in the cap. It is that child's shining moment. It is what they then decide that they want to pursue after high school and beyond. It is what brings them to school every single day. And if which many of our students cannot, if they cannot afford it, we make it accessible. We make it equitable. If you want to play that cello, you're going to have a cello to be able to play, and have a gifted teacher that will be able to supply that instruction. And I think that is what just makes me so proud to be in this position, that it is the thing for so many students, and to make that magic happen each and every day in the school system is a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah, it is.
And also, I mean, music is kind of, when we talk about music, in a way, it's somewhat of a meritocracy, right? I mean, you're the first chair kid is the best player, and on down the line. In a way that I don't know that our schools, often when you look at classrooms, like, we would love to see every AP course or governor's school course have the same diversity that represents the city, but it doesn't always happen that way because of lack of parent support or resources or whatever, but in an orchestra, it can kind of be, right?
Absolutely. I think that students look to orchestra, band, or choir, or their arts classes almost like a family, and it's the one thing that gives them joy. And there are lots of students that you teach that that's one of the most important things of their day. And I've had students come back decades later and tell me how important it was for them to be able to be part of the group and play that concert or go on this trip making music. And other students, they don't learn the same way, and they may be able to learn things of importance like physics or math or history because they really love music, and they find something that they're playing, and they learn all this information that applies to the other classes that they're not so engaged, or it's not motivating them the same way.
Sure, and I've heard, I mean, there are studies linking performance in especially mathematics to music performance, right?
Oh,
because you're learning symbols, there's the physical act of doing it, but also when you see an algebraic symbol, it's not that different than seeing a different clef or a sharp or a flat, right?
That's right.
Whitney, arts are one of those things that extends in Roanoke City anyway, beyond the regular school year, right? I know that, tell me about the Summer Stock.
Oh, Summer Stock Academy. This is so exciting. This is really kind of part of that initiative of students staying safe by staying connected. And we are able to offer a free 2-week really theater enrichment program to middle schoolers. And within that 2-week period, it's about 9 days, they put on a full musical. And they're together, they're working like 8-hour days and learning the choreography and the music. And at the end, they put on this culminating theater experience. And it's wild to watch what they can accomplish.
I'm just always amazed. I was a music kid, theater kid. I'm just always amazed when you watch what a kid can do, what a group of kids can do in theater or orchestra or marching band, where, just the discipline it takes and the fact that they'll show up for that stuff. Jeff, I want to ask you, one of the things that I know Roanoke City has done in the past, and I assume it's still doing, is the zero period, which is the before school, in the dark, kids showing up to do orchestra or jazz band or other programs at the high schools. Do you ever sit back and just think about what those kids are giving up? They don't want to get up at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning so they can be at PH or Fleming early in the morning. What is that time of day like for you and for the kids?
It's a necessary evil, getting up so early. Musicians by nature are a PM type people. But of course we all understand, and the kids understand. They wouldn't be there if they didn't understand that it enables us to be able to do more things during the school day, to be able to come earlier. And even though it's painful, they do it. And I really respect them. But it's music. It's worth everything that we can do to pursue it.
And Whitney, one of the things that impresses me, not just about Roanoke City, but many other arts programs, but I think it's especially true in the city from my experience, is many of the people you have teaching art, whether at the elementary level, the high school level, are really artists. They're
Yes.
working artists. Like, not all math teachers are mathematicians, or I was a social studies teacher, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a historian. How do you find these people to not be that nighttime person, but for 10 months of the year to dedicate themselves to being there every morning, while they're also pursuing their own art?
With a lot of help and a lot of word of mouth, and Roanoke is a cool community with a ton of artists, visual and performing arts, and by word of mouth and talking and asking questions and going to job fairs and colleges and saying come to our city, look at the Taubman, look at all of these performing studios that we have, go to the Jefferson Center, and really kind of luring them in this way and then hooking them into our schools. I think the best teacher you can have is the active artist. And kids love to see. They're so proud of Mr. Midkiff, that has just had this incredible opportunity to perform with the Boston Orchestra, for their art teacher their artwork to be featured at an art walk night.
Well, and I think of things like Liza Deck, who's a longtime dance
Correct.
teacher at
Yes.
Fleming, who also has led dance groups and has performed all over, and so it's really a remarkable group. So
Yes.
that's my input, in my entry into talking a little bit about you, which I know you'd rather talk about your kids, but
We're so proud of them.
you've come off a pretty big summer, and you have a history of working with some pretty great organizations. Tell me about your mandolin concerto, and how did that come about?
Thank you. I've been very fortunate. So as a mandolin player my whole life, I started when I was 7, played professionally with different bluegrass bands when I was young. And at the same time, I got my bachelor's and master's degree in clarinet performance. And I tried to keep that's over here and this, and I would tour, and all of my bluegrass people, knew that I did this, and all my orchestra people knew that I did this, and they didn't realize that, and I tried for years to keep the two separate. And I don't know, 20 years ago, I realized, what I really need to do is try to maximize the whole thing. When I moved back here to Roanoke in 2007, I thought, I could write a mandolin concerto. I really want to. And I approached Maestro David Wiley at the Roanoke Symphony, and I mentioned it to him, and he said, go ahead, do it. This is wonderful. And so I did, and we premiered the piece in 2011. And fortunately...
In front of the full Roanoke Symphony Orchestra, right?
Yes, which was thrilling, and it was amazing. But sometimes it's harder to get the second performance. But luckily, I performed the piece more than 20 times all over the country, and just recently with the Boston Symphony Orchestra at the Tanglewood Festival, which was a highlight for sure. Which
in America, there are a few places where, I wouldn't say that Tanglewood is the mecca of American, music, but it's such a long history of being such a fantastic program. What's the process if an orchestra comes to you and says, we hear you have this, we've seen video or whatever, we hear that you have this concerto, we want you to perform it with our orchestra, how do you make that happen in a way that doesn't look like you just showed up, that day to perform with the orchestra?
Well, I send them the music, and the orchestra's world class. They're just one of the best in the world, and it was just thrilling to hear my music and play my music with musicians of such caliber. But it was as you see it's hard to put into words.
Sure. Well, I can only imagine what impact that might have on students. Whitney, I'm sure the city will
I had a lot of
make
students
sure
that were very
people
excited
know
for me,
that their teacher.
Well, the first thing they ask is, can we go?
I had some
Can we
students
go?
there. Some students actually made it all the way to Massachusetts to be there, and that was thrilling.
That's great, and I'm sure as a professional musician, it's nice to know that, not that you're just an orchestra teacher. That's a fantastic thing to be, but you also are able. What did you learn? What will you bring back to your students from that experience? I know you're not going to talk about it all the time.
But this is the most important thing. I want the students to to say, okay, you know me, I'm just Mr. Midkiff, and look what I've been able to do. I'm very proud of this, and if you had asked me to imagine the greatest thing that I could do when I was a teenager, I couldn't have come up with anything nearly as cool as playing my own composition with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. So, and I've had great teachers through the years that fostered, kept me on the straight and narrow, and made sure that I worked hard, and made sure that I kept myself open to different things as I move forward, because when you're young, you see things through such a small lens, and it's important to have great teachers, and I'm so fortunate. And in the city schools, we've had in the arts just the best teachers, like my predecessor, David Lips, 50 years or plus. And that's one of the most important reasons that the Roanoke City Public Schools orchestra program, or the music program, is known throughout the whole region because of what has been fostered over the decades. And it's
recognized, right? The North American Music Merchants Association,
right?
NAMM,
Yes,
has recognized this.
Our
how many
11th
years?
year, yes,
11
it's
years.
being community.
What does that mean exactly?
It means everything. It means that we have a community that supports the arts, and I'm nodding my head at everything Jeff is saying in this. He's so humble, but it's such an incredible opportunity. And we might not have many students that get to go and perform, their own music with the orchestra, but they will take their families to the orchestra for the rest of their lives. They will go see a live symphony. They'll go see a show on Broadway, to an art museum. We have these opportunities for the rest of our life. That spark started in a classroom. And I think to make that connection, that even if you're not a performer, you might go into politics, you might become, an architect, but you will always treasure what you learned in those art classes and use that for the rest of your life.
Sure, and if you do become a politician or someone else of influence, you will understand when it comes time to make budgets for things like the arts that these do have real value. Jeff, one of the things I read in an article about you that was, I think Virginia Tech magazine wrote an article about you that, and your experience this summer, and it mentioned how you came to play the clarinet, and if you would just recount that for me, because I think it fills so nicely into your work now.
Well, I started learning the mandolin at the age of 7. So when I got to the 6th grade, that was the first year I could play an instrument in school, which at that point I was a seasoned veteran mandolin, fiddle player, etc.
Places like Galax.
Right.
Like that,
and so I go and I asked the supervisor what he said, what instrument would you like to play? And I didn't know. It's like, I just play mandolin. It's like, and I said, I don't know, drums, percussion, trumpet maybe, saxophone. He looked at me and said, you know what, your embouchure looks like you, or whatever, you look like you would be a trombone player or maybe a clarinet player. I said, okay, clarinet. And that was it. And
right,
so,
and now you're putting those instruments in the hands of kids, and I'm sure, yes, your armature might have looked like there was armature that it was perfect for a clarinet, but more likely he needed a clarinet player in the band, right?
So, well, absolutely, and I'm wondering,
available.
and I'm trying to, I've always wondered, the clarinet was the perfect instrument for me to play in retrospect. But I'm wondering, is that because the clarinet molded me, or I don't know. But I would have not wanted to choose another instrument besides clarinet.
And think about the things you learned from that, right? You learned the clarinet, which you might have been a trombone, just another, I was a trumpet player. There were a million of us in high school because we'd all seen trumpet players, so we thought that was good. So just that influence that you have as a teacher is important, right?
It's surprising how much influence just the kids can watch and learn from teachers, and we don't have any idea that the kids are learning things subtly.
Right,
as well. Yeah.
They're little sponges, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What are you excited about this year, Whitney, in terms of this academic year as we start a new school year?
It's always, you're going off the roller coaster and getting ready. I'm just so excited. Again, this is my second year in this position. So last year I just did a lot of watching, a lot of going into the classrooms and just crying over just how amazed that I was of what gifted teachers we had. And so this year, I'm just really excited to get in more and support and see what they're doing. We've got some good, exciting things coming on the horizon. In both high schools and all 5 middle schools, we do have a couple of new fine arts teachers. I'm excited to mentor them and connect them with the mentor. But we're gonna have a great year.
As we reach the end of the program, I just want to thank both Jeff and Whitney for coming to the studio to record this episode during a very busy time of year. I'd like to remind everyone that this and all past episodes are available on demand on our Echo channel after they air, and we hope you'll visit blueridgepbs.org/echo and subscribe so that you can keep up with all of the new content that's added each month. For What It Takes, I'm Tom Landon.